And as usual, today is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. And Alberta is coming up against the same tactics that people see if they vote for the party that the public doesn't want them to vote for. Sometimes it's conservative, sometimes it's liberal, whatever it is. And if they rent out a hall or something to that effect, pressure gets put on the hall to cancel. And so Alberta separatists have been renting out legions and things like that. And what's been happening is people are getting their bookings canceled because they're separatists and they say, we don't support that here. And so I'll show you that pretty scary stuff. But Alberta, I'm going to tell you every time we talk about this, if you don't do this the same way the truckers did the Freedom Convoy, which is to say without permission, if you don't operate outside of how Danielle Smith tells you have to do this, you will not get what you want. The only way to assure that you get what you want, and whatever that is, whatever the outcome of the vote is, you should be able to take that and then action it. No matter what happens, if you let the government run it, they won't do it honestly, you'll get screwed. If you do it by yourselves, if you hire a group of people, they work for you, they oversee the vote, get your paperwork in order, and then show up in Danielle Smith's office and say, you're done, get out. This is our government now. Here's all the paperwork. It's above board, get out. So that's the only way I think it's going to get done. Otherwise, you will get stymied by endless delays and or votes that are rigged and or other things, other ways to make it seem like they're giving you a pathway to this while not actually giving you a genuine pathway to Alberta separation, Alberta independence, anything like that. And so if you genuinely want something like that, you're going to have to do it outside of the current approved formation by Danielle Smith. I promise you. They aren't going to remove the interprovincial trade barriers. The latest interprovincial trade barriers to be enshrined in law are the dairy cartel, right? Supply management. And so that's Bill C-202 that just got royal assent, or not royal assent, it just passed third reading in the Senate. So it will get royal assent. It hasn't got that yet. So it will be law. So the next time, well, we'll talk about that when we get there. What did Sweden do to get invaders to leave? I'll tell you when it's pertinent, but it's way easier, I think, to get compliance than we think it is. Very, very quick. Ban on gas-powered cars was voted on and upheld in the House. And I mean, you can vote fantasy if you want to and ignore reality, but the reality will slap you in the face eventually. John Rustad tries the same kind of scam that Danielle Smith used for her leadership vote, and he's getting exposed for it. Rebel News picked this one up, so I'll show you that. We'll talk about BC. Trump's American-made T1 phone running Android. Pretty crazy stuff. It's priced really well. I kind of want one. So I am a fanboy, and I definitely, of phones. I liked cutting edge phones and phones that are supposed to be, well, phones that I can load my own Sims on, phones that I can mess with and play with and do fun things with that most people don't do with their phones. So I like having cutting edge phones, and this is going to be an American made phone. So it's not so much the fact that it's Trump's branding, but it's cheap. $499 is cheap for a phone. And it's American made. And so I thought, holy smoke, I definitely want that phone. And it's gold. So holy cow, I'll show that to you later in the show. Update about the Lolita Express bus driver. He's gone. And dangers of C5 later in the show today. C5 and Elizabeth May takes point and she doesn't seem drunk. So weird, right? And the G7 wrapped up today because Trump left. And so Zelensky showed up, got his money, Trump left, and everybody's saying, well, the G7's over. That was quick. Super crazy. Lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We're talking about G7. Kirk says the almost comical part of Donald Trump's arrival to Calgary for the G7 is that his Air Force and Air Force entourage is more capable than all of Canada's Air Force. It's true. It's absolutely true. Here's Donald Trump's kind of everybody flying in to Calgary, and he's got choppers. And I'm not well versed on military aircraft or anything like that, but I see these things in the sky sometimes around Ontario, and I think like, man, what's going on? They've got two dual propeller helicopter things. I don't know what they are. They're huge planes and helicopters, and it's wild. Just that alone would absolutely decimate our air power. Like, they would laugh at us, and that would be that. I mean, not that we would get into any kind of disagreement that would warrant that probably, but if you stacked up the American entourage for Donald Trump, President Trump, to the G7 and Canada's entire Air Force, I think Donald Trump's group wins. Danielle Smith says, it was an honor to welcome President Zelensky to Canada for the G7. Here in Alberta, our historical connection to Ukraine runs deep. Its culture and strength is woven into the fabric of our province. Alberta stands with Ukraine and remains committed to supporting humanitarian efforts, including accepting over 70,000 evacuees impacted by the war. We continue to hope for a just and lasting peace and for the day when the Ukrainian people can rebuild in freedom and security. The whole thing seems ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Why are we embroiled in this war over Ukraine, which is a non-NATO country, which had a proven CIA-backed coup in 2014 in the Donbass? All of that stuff, all of that is just ignored, papered over, closed eyes, and pretend like it doesn't even matter. And we're supposed to ignore all of this and pretend like the sending of billions of dollars of Canadian tax dollars to Ukraine is good. It's not. It's not good. We shouldn't be paying for these wars. We shouldn't be paying for all of this. It's insane. It is absolutely bonkers. And we're sending more. Here's Western Standard. Carney promises Ukraine another $2 billion in military aid. Billion with a B. Lots of money. Why? Where's the oversight? No oversight. No budget. Budget, schmudget. We're just going to drip things out in dribs and drabs to maybe let you know what we're spending-ish, right? You pleb. We are serfs, unfortunately. Bradshaw is responding to this news article talking about money going out. And the news article says, Carney reiterated pledges made during the election campaign to rearm Canadian military with new submarines, armored vehicles, drones, and other technology. He provided no additional specifics during the speech. Much of the new $9.3 billion in defense spending is foundational, allowing the military to increase recruitment, give current soldiers a pay raise, and set the stage for major equipment purchases, as well as an expansion of the Canadian defense industry. And Bradshaw says, since Mark Carney is giving Ukraine $4.3 billion, is he taking that money away from our military? Carney didn't commit to $9.3 billion to our military. That's the problem when you don't produce budgets. We can't see where our tax dollars are going. Right. Truth. Here's Ryan. He says, just another meeting that won't help a single Canadian. In fact, this one is costing us billions of dollars. Do you enjoy working for these people? So here is Carney talking to all heads of state. There's Ursula von der Leyen and Mark Rutte and Macron and other people, et cetera, et cetera. Zelensky's right beside Carney right there. And so the whole thing seems an expensive waste of time that globalist the people who won the election were not the people who were not the candidates that the people voted for, but were the candidates that the globalists wanted in. The composition of our government is the same as it was when the government collapsed. And when the government collapsed, it was a very unpopular government with huge questions looming that it didn't want to answer and was hiding behind all sorts of prorogation and other tricks to make sure that it didn't have to answer questions or produce documents. And now we're supposed to move on and trust exactly the same group of people with the next 5 years, 10 years or whatever, because they're not going to let go of power. And we're not supposed to ask any questions at all. This is insanity. It's insane. It doesn't make any sense. And people going along with it should be questioned. Like, I question the entire Conservative Party. Why did the throne speech pass on division? Nobody wants to talk about that. I've been asking them all. They're all pretending it's politics is normal. Oh, look at what the Liberals are doing this time. Look at what they're doing that time. Look at us fighting for you. They're not fighting for us. They voted with the Liberals. They didn't say a damn thing when the throne speech came up. They didn't vote one way or the other. They just let it pass on division. Why? Because they supported it. So how can anybody support them? I don't understand it. They should be in panic mode because their base should be screaming at them. What the hell is wrong with people? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Mark Nixon says the CBC says the G7 ended in a roller coaster with more questions than answers. When bought and paid for media admits that, it's time to slam the panic button. This is 8 minutes of talking about the G7 with Donald Trump leaving, and they're talking about him being a disruptor and all the rest of this stuff. It's very CBC. It seems to me like they're trying to hand the bag over to Donald Trump and say he's the problem here. Food Professor is talking about this. Mark Carney hosts the G7 in Canada and at home, and who gets a tariff-reducing deal with Donald Trump first? The United Kingdom. Ho, right? So good for them. And then Donald Trump left. Elbows up, says the Food Professor. Right. Very interesting stuff going on there. And we don't get anything. On the way back to the United States, Trump was talking about Canada joining the Golden Dome. He called it the Iron Dome, but Canada joining the Golden Dome, but it's going to cost so much money, $71 billion, that we'd be better to be the 51st state. And like, let's stop messing around here, really. Come on, let's get down to it, eh? So pretty wild stuff. Maxime Bernier is responding to the $4.3 billion in new Ukraine aid and sanctions on Russia's shadow fleet. Bernier says Canada is bankrupt, but Carney is sending another $4.3 billion to Zelensky to continue fighting a pointless war that doesn't concern us. That's half of the $9 billion in additional military spending he announced 2 weeks ago to immediately reach the current NATO target of 2% GDP. Yeah, so where's all that money coming from? I guess taxes are going up, right? Carbon tax is back, everyone. Except this time it's the war tax, and we have to pay it because Slava Ukraine? Ryan says, I'll sum up the mainstream media. There's nothing Carney can't do, and he sure handled Trump. So CTV News headline is, Carney guided the G7 through diplomatic Rockies, says an expert. So I don't believe any of the experts. The experts were liars who were paid off by the government. Spectator Index says the G7 statement says that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. It made me laugh that they put this out there because they're trying to remain relevant. Trump had to leave the G7 to actively deal with the situation, which was Iran, Israel, the whole shebang, which seems to be cooled down a little bit today, although we're going to talk about it in just a minute. But it's certainly not the full-blown World War III thermonuclear war, Strait of Hormuz shut down, blah, 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 that people were expecting 2 days ago or the other evening, right? So interesting to note, okay? But the Spectator Index is trying, well, the G7 statement is trying to make these people seem relevant, but they're not. The only relevant one was Trump, really. He left to deal with it, and seems like maybe he did. Here is Tucker Carlson, and he's interviewing Ted Cruz, and they get into a bit of a yelling match here, but it's very eye-opening. This is very eye-opening for the big evil Iran. Iran is the bad guy right now. And it was Saudi Arabia when I was a kid, or 20 years ago. Saudi Arabia, I think we were blamed initially for 9/11, I think. Anyway, I digress. Here's Tucker Carlson talking to Ted Cruz.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
I
am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Huh. So we're bombing Iran. They're bombing Iran. By we, I mean us, them. By us, I mean them. Them are bombing Iran. They're bombing Iran. What? So the whole interview drops today. Interesting. Here's Donald Trump, and Clandestine says Trump says he's going to use U.S. trade as a negotiation tool to attempt to get Iran and Israel to reach an agreement, similar to how he did with India, Pakistan. There are many who are desperate to make it seem like Trump wants war, but he does not, or it doesn't seem like he does. He wants a deal and peace. Here's Trump's truth about this, or one of them. He says, Donald Trump says, Iran and Israel should make a deal and will make a deal, just like I got India and Pakistan to make in that case by using trade with the United States to bring reason, cohesion, and sanity into the talks with two excellent leaders who were able to quickly make a decision and stop. Also, during my first term, Serbia and Kosovo were going at it. hot and heavy, and as they have for many decades. And this long-time conflict was ready to break out into war. I stopped it. Biden has hurt the longer-term prospects with some very stupid decisions, but I will fix it again. Another case is Egypt and Ethiopia, and their fight over a massive dam that is having an effect on the magnificent Nile River. There is peace, at least for now, because of my intervention, and it will stay that way. Likewise, we will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings now taking place. I do a lot and never get credit for anything, but that's okay. The people understand. Make the Middle East great again. So there you go. See? Trump fixing everything left and right. He fixes everything in the background, don't you know? He never sleeps. He puts on a Superman outfit and he fixes everything. Here is a Sprinter, and this is update from Iran. Official statement from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The 11th wave of the proud Operation True Promise 3, that's a little wordy, isn't it? Using the first generation Fatah missiles marks the beginning of the end of the mythical air defense of the Zionist army, the confusion and self-destruction of the Zionist villains. We congratulate you, commanders and loyal fighters, blah, 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 blah. What I'm trying to convey with all this is the Iron Dome is not a really great advertisement for the Golden Dome because Iran seems to be able to send missiles in. It says today's missile strikes showed that we have complete control over the skies, over the occupied territories, Israel, and their residents are completely defenseless against Iranian missile attacks. So this is not, I don't want to spend $71 billion on the Golden Dome because it looks like the Iron Dome's kind of shit. Sorry, right? Like super good technology, blah, 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 blah. But it fails. So 71 million seems kind of wasted to me, if you ask me. But here's Keith. And this is Keith just saying, so yesterday, lots of people are talking about how they don't want boots on the ground. They don't want any American intervention. This guy's from Blaze TV, and he's just outlining a poll. People are worried. I think a lot of people are worried of getting into another regime change war in the Middle East, or getting into another peacekeeping war in the Middle East, or so another Iraq or another Afghanistan, whatever you want to call it. And people don't want that. And so influencers, Blaze TV, everybody are putting out these kind of polls to see what people think. And I think broadly, people don't want it. People are saying, yeah, how about no? Okay, here we go.
Good morning, kids. I hope everyone's having a beautiful day already. Coming up at 7 a.m. Eastern on The Blaze, Pat Gray Unleashed Jeffy is here today for a Wednesday edition, Chewing the Fat, coming up. Now, there's a poll. It's posted just below this video here on my X feed. And the question is, what level of U.S. involvement in Iran are you good with as an American? Okay? So here are your four options. Stay out completely, share intel with Israel, drop U.S. bombs and missiles onto Iran, or U.S. boots on the ground. Those are your four options. Please be sure to vote. Oh, wait a minute. What?
I don't know what he's talking about at the end. So it's interesting. I didn't see any polls or anything like this. This is just a video. I guess I could follow the video. But it's a lot of people responding here genuinely and generally don't want war. And so it's very interesting to watch. No boots on the ground. Israel should go at it independently without the United States, so on and so forth. But again, there's other clips of the Ted Cruz interview I've seen this morning that he's talking about how tightly intertwined, and I've said this on my show as well, the United States military and the Israeli military is. If the Israeli military is acting, they have access, just like the Ukrainian army has access to NATO satellites, NATO intel, all of that stuff. Israel, as far as I understand it, is very tightly wound with a lot of U.S. intel, a lot of like telemetry, all that stuff to run bombing and rockets and things like that. So, and they've also got warships off the coast, as far as I understand, to help with the missile defense of Israel from Iran, but it's still failing. Again, not a great advertisement for the Golden Dome. Brian Lilly says, if my union was sponsoring this, I'd be running a decertification campaign tomorrow. If you're in CUPE, Ontario, you should decertify. Just another union. Join another union if you want, but quit CUPE, Ontario. So CUPE's got a Toronto protest on Sunday, June 22nd. Hands off Iran, they say. Okay, weird. I mean, how about we just stay out of a foreign conflict and we don't fund it? We just say, you guys figure out whatever the heck you guys want to do. If you want to destroy each other, great. Leave us out of it. Thank you very much. You guys want to do what you're going to do what you're going to do. It's not our responsibility, and it's not our job to stop you. Like, we are not the police for the world. It's your country and do what you want to do. So having all of this and pretending that school board union or CUPE union has any kind of influence on this other than to be domestically political, I think it's false. I think that they're not helping. They're certainly not helping Iranians or Israelis. Nobody's being helped by this. Here's Bitcoin news. Iran's biggest bank just got wiped out in a cyber attack, apparently. So the central bank in Iran got wiped out in a cyber attack. So what do you do if that happens? You check your Bitcoin wallets and you're like, all right, well, we got some money. No ATMs, no cash, all account records reportedly deleted. This is what financial war looks like and why Bitcoin matters more than ever. If that happens, well, has Bitcoin gone up? If that happens in the United States, I bet Bitcoin goes to $1 million that day. We'll see. We'll see if this has any reasonable impact. Does this make you want to buy more Bitcoin than you've got? It's interesting. I don't know if that happens. Will people just turn to Bitcoin? If that happens, will the government just say, "Here's your digital currency. We're putting this out in place of cash, and don't worry about it." And then people will just adopt the digital currency and say, "Oh goodness, thank goodness the government was here. Otherwise, we would never have survived." But then they've just migrated you to digital currency by stealing all of your assets. And that's not good, right? Even though it looks like a cyber attack did it, right? Like, oh yeah, a cyber attack did it. How about we fix the communists running the government before we believe that cyber attacks are taking things out? I don't know. I'm just saying I'd be skeptical as all get out if that happened. You're going to have to turn off the internet. Everybody knows. Okay, here's Jeff Winger laying it out for everybody with Fox Mulder.
Why do such a thing and lie about it? Our own government.
Your own government lies as a matter of course, as a matter of policy. The Tuskegee experiments on black men in the 30s, Henrietta Lacks.
What are they trying to do?
That's the missing piece.
But it's not hard to imagine. A government hiding, hoarding, driven not only by corporate greed, but a darker objective.
The takeover of America.
And then the world itself, by any means necessary, however violent, or cruel, or efficient. By severe drought, brought on by weather wars, conducted secretly using aerial contaminants and high-altitude electromagnetic waves. In a state of perpetual war. To create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home. With tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose. The corporate takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism.
And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins.
The takeover of America.
By a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate.
Happening as we sit here.
It's happening all around us.
The other shoe waiting to drop.
It'll probably start on a Friday. The banks will announce a security action necessitating their computers to go offline all weekend.
Digital money will disappear.
They can just steal your money?
Followed by the detonation of strategic electromagnetic pulse bombs to knock out major grids.
What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia.
Huh. Man, isn't fiction funny? I mean, just wildly speculative, right? My goodness. Abed, show us the diagram, right? Jeepers creepers. Here's a little bit of Ukrainian news. Did you know this? I didn't know this. Clash Report is reporting Spotify's founder, Derek Eck, has invested 600 million euros in Helsing, a company that supplies drones to Ukraine. So Spotify, your Spotify subscription, I'm sorry, Spotify users, is funding drones in Ukraine? Scary thought. It's a scary thought. It's pretty wild. Majid says, take note, Globalist Spotify CEO Daniel Ek invests $600 million in Ukraine drone warfare technology. This is why Spotify had originally censored my Joe Rogan episode 1780 for 3 weeks. We totally destroyed the globalist war narrative on Ukraine during the show. Daniel Ek was eventually forced to release 1780 after a public campaign and certain pressure points were applied. So interesting. So there is censorship up and down. And when you expose people, they use their platforms to censor as well. And my question is, and I don't know, was Dave Eck always the CEO or always in that position? Or what is he? Globalist CEO, yeah. So, or did he get put in place at some point, right? So like, was Spotify established, had an audience, a huge audience, and then they put their globalist guy in, and then he turned it into this thing that will support war, unending war? Or was it built from the ground up to be this thing that is an audience magnet, and it was always used this way? I honestly, genuinely don't know, but I wonder when this guy got in there. Very interesting stuff. Here's some news about the 2020 election, and I think it informs what's going on in Canada, our elections too, and so does Chris. He says, well, he's responding to Kash Patel, and Kash Patel says the FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. election, including allegations of interference by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. I've immediately declassified the material and turned the documents over to Chairman Grassley for further review. And Chris says, what are the odds that this kind of thing occurred in Canada to assist Justin Trudeau and now Mark Carney? If so, how far back do you think it goes? Pierre Elliott Trudeau? And probably before that too. Right? So I'm just saying we are often taken for a ride. Here is TD Leaker. And so we've got to talk about the invasion that's ongoing in the West. And he says, now you know why out of nowhere, every major employer had labor shortages and immigration ballooned. Canadians couldn't find jobs and homeless encampments proliferated. Below is a concise list of Canadian government programs that incentivize hiring newcomers, immigrants, and refugees over Canadians based on available information. These programs offer wage subsidies, grants, or other financial incentives to employers to support the integration of newcomers into the workforce. The Economic Mobility Pathway is one. Description: it connects Canadian employers with skilled refugees and displaced persons to fill labor shortages in critical sectors. Incentives: facilitates hiring by streamlining immigration processes and providing access to a pool of international talent. Employers may receive support from partner organizations for recruitment. Eligibility: employers in various sectors, particularly those facing labor shortages. Canadians must be refugees, or candidates must be refugees or displaced persons with valid work permits. Here's the Ontario Job Grant. Canada Ontario Job Grant provides financial support to employers for training employees, including newcomers, to meet job-specific skills. Graduated apprenticeship for employees, GAGE, up to $16,000 for training an apprentice, plus a $2,500 bonus for hiring newcomers or other underrepresented groups. Here's Employment Integration Program for immigrants and visible minorities in Quebec, and that it gives 60% gross salary, up to $5,000 for training and $2,000 for mentoring and $5,000 for adapting HR practices. Welcoming Newcomers program is up to $7,000 for work integrated in learning opportunities and $22,000 for internships or training programs. Crazy. Student work placement program is 50% of wages to a maximum of $5,000 or 70% to a max of $7,000 for underrepresented groups, including newcomers. So all of this is done to incentivize employers to hire these people with cash money attached to it, right? Cash for you, cash for the hire, cash for the company, all sorts of stuff. It is jaw-dropping because that's not affirmative action. That's way worse than affirmative action, honestly. Here's Inevitable West. They say for the first time since the 1960s, Sweden's conservative government has registered more migrants leaving the country than entering, with asylum applications at the lowest in 25 years. How did they do it? They took away the benefits. Yeah, it's that simple. So we are financing our own replacement through government grants and employment grants to also make it so you can't find a job if you are an unfortunate skin color that's too light, right? Or if you can't prove that you come from a third world country or something like that. Pretty wild stuff. And they get incentives to not hire you. So we are in a bad situation that if we just turned it all off, first, people would be able to find jobs, and two, the people who are coming here would stop coming here. So that would be great. Maybe not for our economy in the short term, but I mean, we need to fix it. And so we need to get on the pathway to a sustainable economy that isn't a Ponzi scheme, for crying out loud. Maxime Bernier is responding to Pierre Poilievre. Poilievre says, violent thugs are preying on innocent people in our cities in a wave of extortions. We must send a strong message to all of these criminals. Conservatives are pushing mandatory jail time for anyone convicted of extortion to bring home safe streets for our people. Ooh, that's a big miss, right? Whiffer. just a big mess. And Maxime Bernier says, those violent thugs should never have entered Canada. You're an accomplice of the Liberals in having supported their mass migration or mass immigration policy, and you let this happen without saying anything. It's time for mass deportations, or just turn off the tap. Just stop paying these people to be here, and they'll go away. They'll go home. They'll go to somewhere else. Ryan says, Canada's population clock from December 24 versus today. What's wrong with this picture? This clock works on stats directly from Stats Canada. We are now almost 230,000 less people than back in December. Something's not right. So this is back in December, and you can see the population change since midnight, 1,277, and the total population is 41,914,117. And in the one that was taken June 17th, the population is 41,688,870. And so it seems like 230,000 people have just magically been disappeared from Canada. Were they counting wrong? Did they lose these people? Did these people get changed into the population of Canada? Maybe they just stopped counting certain people. They're like, poof, gone. These ones don't count. They're not on the list. I wonder how many uncounted people there are in Canada. Be interesting to note. It seems weird. It seems like a strange thing going on. Okay, we'll do this election thing, and then we've got our grab bag of governance. Oh, I've got some Alberta news that I kind of wanted in the free show. We'll do this one. Marco says the tolerant left has been attempting to cancel the Prosperity Project venue bookings around the province. Have they blocked me, or is this just wrong? Occasionally they're successful, as is the case with the Canadian-German club in Lethbridge, Alberta. Oh, I thought it was a Legion. The club president, Gary W., may need some help growing a spine. So the German club of Lethbridge is there. And Ken says, I sent a message expressing my disappointment that the German-Canadian club in Lethbridge was renting their facility to the separatist Alberta Prosperity Project. I got this welcome response. We need to complain to every facility the separatists are renting to spread their lies and propaganda. As president of the German-Canadian Club, it has come to my attention that the club was booked for an event that had some deep concerns. After reviewing the matter, we have canceled the event, and we at the German-Canadian Club condone any organization that promotes any type of radicalization. Again, with my deepest apologies. Radicalization? What? So they're going to try and make you guys, Alberta, seem crazy for doing what you want to do. And that seems bonkers. Okay, we will leave it here for the stream. So thanks everybody for watching today, and we'll catch you tomorrow, and we'll carry on for everybody else. We've got our elections and grab bag of governance and a whole bunch of other stuff too. Tim says this is a large number of the parties. So this is a pretty big deal, actually. Maybe I should have kept this on the free show. Don't. Anyway, we're already long. What's going on is Rustad is tried to do the same thing that Danielle Smith did with regards to bringing in a bunch of South Asians to vote for her leadership review or something to that effect. The Conservative at the AGM, at the annual general meeting. And so Rustad did exactly the same thing, but he got caught. And Rebel News wrote an expose. My expose didn't catch on for Danielle Smith, but Rebel News's did for John Rustad. And so it's become a big deal. And so that's what the story is here. So Tim is responding to 1BC. 1BC is Dallas Brody's new vehicle, and it's getting some traction. And she says, here's a media release. It says, over 50 riding association directors demand an external audit of BC Conservative AGM in a letter to party board. Victoria, BC, in a letter addressed to BC Conservative Party president, over 50 directors of the party's riding associations are demanding an external audit of the party's March 1st AGM. The letter calls recent allegations of impropriety by John Rustad credible, including, 1, paying approximately $100,000 to 100 or more members of the Southern Asian community with the intent of influencing votes in favor of Mr. Rustad's slate of directors and proposed amendments to the party's constitution. 2, selecting and rejecting delegates on the basis of their political leanings or allegiance to Mr. Rustad. 3, improperly delaying, denying, or withdrawing certification of riding associations, thereby increasing the influence of the party executive over the selection of delegates. 4, placement stacking of delegates believed to be loyal to Mr. Rustad into ridings in which they were not resident. The letter asks the party's board of directors to decide by June 27th whether they will agree to conduct the audit into the above allegations. It also asks that the auditor have no prior relationship with Rustad or other party officials, and that the results be released to members. The demand for an external audit comes after a report by Rebel News revealed that the party appears to have waived costs for a large block of South Asian voters with the understanding that they would vote for Rustad's personally endorsed slate of directors. The report is here. This report corroborates allegations made in a press conference on May 28th, where former conservative MLAs alleged that a senior member of Rustad's executive team had confessed that the Indo-packing scheme cost the party approximately $100,000. The press conference can be viewed here. So pretty wild stuff going on in BC. And then this is, Tim is responding. Tim says this is a large number of the party's core organizers calling on the board for transparency. Whether or not you believe the BC Conservatives can be saved or whether Rustad will be ousted, this is an easy call for the party's board. Yeah, they're going to investigate all of this. And here is Kirk, and he's taking us back to when Danielle Smith did pretty much exactly the same thing. And he says, I need Danielle Smith or someone on her team to explain what the heck this is. An Islamic Sharia law-based school in Edmonton that makes elementary-aged girls wear a hijab is mobilizing support for Smith for the UCP AGM because they are set to get money from her new school funding announcement. Buses and tickets to the convention are already covered, paid for, which is exactly what Rustad did, and they are calling on as many people as possible to come, which includes a behind-the-scenes meet and greet. So she's got a block of people who came in and voted for her on the expectation that Danielle Smith was going to institute Sharia holidays and Sharia banking. I'm not joking. I wrote a whole article about it. Here it is. And you can see all the materials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This happened in November 2024 at the